Welcome to Sex Talk Radio, a podcast that explores kink and sex through candid and curious conversations. Join me and expert guests in exploring taboos and unpacking what it means to be sex and kink positive. Go check out our new website, sextalkradio.com. That is SEGGS talkradio.com. And I hope you enjoy the episode.
I love lingerie. I've always loved lingerie. And I'm also a PhD. And I also used to teach neuroscience and psychology for non-science majors. That was what I did as a professor.
Really good at making stuff digestible. Over 80% of women, including myself, cannot have orgasms from penetrative sex alone. That is why it is so important that we find sex toys that we love. Honey Playbox makes an incredibly wide variety of toys. They literally have it all. They have wands, they have clit suckers, they have thrusting toys. They have so many options. And what's really cool about Honey Playbox is they are very technology forward. Many of their toys can be app controlled in addition to the regular settings and buttons on the toy, which makes it really fun for you and your partner. Go to honeyplaybox.com and use code SEX, SEGGS, for 20% off of your entire order. This episode of Sex Talk Radio is brought to you by the HUD app. The HUD app is changing the face of modern and casual dating by giving users a really fun and flirty interface, and also it has bedroom features where you can select all of the kinky and naughty things you're into and show those to potential future partners. I personally love using the HUD app, and I think it's a great system for finding kinky people near you. Go to hudapp.com/sextalk. That is hudapp.com/SEGGS talk TALK for more. Not everyone wants a purple sparkly dildo, so when Peep Show Toys reached out to me and sent me their line of the Solina hyper-realistic, body-safe, platinum-grade silicone dildos, I was super excited. When I say they are realistic looking, I'm serious. They are very hyper-realistic. They are soft on the outside, they are firm on the inside, and they have a suction on the bottom for hands-free play if that's what you are into. Go to peepshowtoys.com and use code SEX, SEGGS, for 10% off of your entire order. When I started optimizing my life around my menstrual cycle, everything changed for the better. That is why I love the Stardust app. It is far more than a period tracker. It is an entire hormonal health universe inside of an app. I've been using it for quite a while now, and what I love the most is the beautiful design. I love that I can share my cycle with a friend or with a partner. I get customized notifications, and I've learned so much about my cycle and about hormones. So wherever you get your apps, search for the Stardust app, and I look forward to your thoughts. I recently squirted for the first time, and it was a lot of liquid. That's why I'm so glad that I've since found Splash Blanket. They create incredible waterproof blankets for all types of fluids. They have them in a bunch of different sizes and textures, and they are truly incredible and very absorbent. Go to splashblanket.us and use code SEGGS for 15% off of your entire order. Dr. M, the Science Femme, welcome to Sex Talk Radio.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Me too.
It's fun.
Me too. I would love to just jump in to a bit of your younger years, childhood, teenage years. You shared some notes, and I'd love to start there.
Yeah, I mean, well, I grew up in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
And so it's really interesting. I think that the way I was raised really shapes my relationship with like body positivity and sex positivity.
Yeah.
And in South Florida, everyone's naked all the time. Like you
Bikinis.
can't wear clothes.
Okay.
It's too hot.
Oh God, I'd hate that.
Yeah, so you wear your bikini to, the grocery store, to the Publix for those.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's heading to the beach, whatever. To high school, I would wear like tiny little mini skirts, sandals, or even heels, and like little tiny bodysuits and things like that. And it was normal because it's 90 degrees every day. I also was really grateful to like the way I was raised in general. My family has a lot of problems, but one thing I'm really grateful to my parents for the way they raised me is my dad in particular never like sexualized us for our nudity. Like we were just his kids, and he never shamed us to like put on clothes or cover up. Yeah. And so like, we were a naked family. We were a naked family, and we'd walk around naked, and it was just eye contact. There was nothing weird about it. Yeah. And it kind of remains that way to this day. Like it's very kind of weird, but as an adult, I can just be naked around my family, and like that is just fine. And it's like I don't cease to be a person once I'm less clothed, right? I'm still the same person as I was before when I was fully dressed. And so that's kind of the thesis statement, so to speak, of Dr. M Science Femme. It's like, I don't care how revealing I'm dressed. You should maintain your sense of personhood for me, and you should be able to listen to what I'm saying and respect me as a human with, you know, qualifications and interesting and important things to say and contribute.
Yes.
So.
And often there's a distinction that you can't be super sexy and super smart. And I think it's so important to smash that shit. So
yeah.
thank you for doing that.
Yeah. I'm really trying to do that for everyone who's a professional in the world who is trying to also embody their own sexuality, because we don't.
They're so separated.
Yeah. We don't want to put it away. Like, it's part of who we are. We're like humans who are sexual and like sensual and feminine, right? But we have to like put it all away so people can focus. And I think that's just silly. Like, I don't want to be less of who I am. And I mean, there's more to this arc. Like, I could keep talking, but.
Yeah, for a very long time, I covered up a lot. I had huge boobs in high school before I had a reduction, like G's. And so it was instantly sexualized. And parents kind of told me to cover up, but out of concern of being sexualized by other kids and boys at school. And I really wanted to prove to everyone, especially as I like built my first company, like I am smart. And so I would therefore not dress sexy, but it's okay because I came across as smart to these men in a boardroom or whatever it is. And then kind of had a breakthrough with sexuality where I was like, oh, I feel less confident and less myself if I don't feel fucking powerful and sexy.
Yes.
And I don't care what they think.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. But, you know, I've heard people tell me, because I get a lot of feedback from women and, you know, people who are in STEM, for example.
Yeah.
And they say no matter how much I try to like code switch into whatever their like boys club attire is, it still doesn't matter. Like, they still won't respect me the same way because I am a woman. And it might work to some extent, but it's still like there are still serious problems. And in the meantime, you have to sacrifice your identity in order to try to be seen as equal.
Sure.
So I'm not down. And like,
nowhere that.
Yeah, I had to sacrifice my young womanhood to my PhD and to, I was a full-time faculty lecturer. And, you know, I was running research studies and people didn't know like what to do with me because I was young, even though I was I dressed myself so frumpily, and it didn't matter. They could still see through the fact that I was 24 when I graduated with my PhD. I was very young. But I tried to like, you know, look older so people would take me seriously.
But I fight to be taken seriously as a woman.
Yes.
It's just a fight.
Yeah. It's really just pervasive. And there are research studies that show that like when you prime people to pay attention to a woman's feminine features rather than like her, I don't know, thoughts or whatever, if you are focusing on her body, people will rate the woman as less competent, less intelligent, and less than fully human.
The fuck?
Yeah. So by less than human.
Like objectified.
Objectified. Yeah. Exactly. So they are objectifying the person. And like the word objectified, people don't really like fully grasp what it means a lot of the time. But to be objectified means that people don't really see you as having the same range of feelings and as important of like, you know, pain. They don't see pain to be as affecting you as much as it would them. Like it's really freaking like creepy stuff. So it's like you're a tool to their use rather than a person with sovereign humanity.
So with your PhD and educational background, were you studying human sexology and? No,
I'm a behavioral neuroscientist. Okay. I mean, so I like, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm a behavioral neuroscientist. I started in an umbrella program for all biomedical sciences, which means I had to learn how to read papers from every single field, right? So yeah, like every biomedical field, I had to learn how to understand the research before I then specialized in neuroscience. And my thesis was like very interdisciplinary. So I did a lot in psychiatry. I did a lot in sleep research. I did a lot in early life trauma stuff too. And all the different like behavioral and mental impacts of that combination of things.
Was that your favorite category to research and learn about? Or?
Yeah. All of the above are really important. And what is not really known is there's a huge intersection between these. There are like bidirectional relationships between like your early life experiences, how safe you feel to rest and sleep, and the mental health impacts of that as they go on through your life. And also if you have mental health issues, you're more likely to have sleep issues, etc. Right. So it's all like an interplay
Definitely.
of wellness, based on early life experiences.
So during your college years, what was happening in your sex life?
Okay,
Where
so
did this journey kind of cross?
Yeah, so I've been non-monogamous for pretty much ever.
Okay, love. Head of the game.
To one degree or another, right? So even
before it was cool.
Before it was cool, I was like 17 years old and I was dating this guy who was like my first BDSM boyfriend.
Oh, wow.
Already at 17.
Yeah.
Hi, Jorge. Hello.
LOL.
So I'm one of my best friends at the time. We went into the bathroom at the movie theater, like, in my hometown. Mm-hmm. And we both gave him a blowjob. Like, it was hot. It was just like, I was 17 and I was like, this is fun. This is my boyfriend and my friend. Like, let's go for it. Yeah. And I was just like, cool. I actually was in a long-term relationship from later 17 until 24 when I finally left that relationship. So it was almost 8 years.
And that was non-monogamous? It
was a non-monogamous relationship.
Okay.
So we started off just like thinking about swinging stuff. And that's really like how the majority of the relationship was. Yeah, right? I'm like swinging before like I knew that it had like creepy undertones.
Right,
like,
it totally does.
But
not all.
I mean, now I wouldn't do it because, again, I feel that it objectifies the participants as like a tools for the pleasure of the like primary couple. So I would never like participate in that kind of dynamic anymore. But anyway, so at the time that's what we were doing. We were swinging, but it was like us just fucking all our friends, So that's what I did in college. I fucked all my friends. We went to different colleges, my boyfriend and I. And so like, I'm bisexual. So I would ask him, I was like, hey, so would it be okay if I fucked my girlfriends while I'm here? And he's like, yes. Just not guys. So, of course, there's this, like, problematic one penis policy thing. But, again, I was, like, 18. So, like...
You weren't only fucking women for those 8 years, though.
No. Okay. Well, him and women. And then we would do, like, group scenes.
Okay.
And when it was, like, him
But you weren't
present.
having other male...
Yeah.
Okay.
Not without him, like, being there for it.
Yeah.
As
a little
like,
problematic.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, this was, like, it ended in, like, 2014, right? So, like, before I even knew that, like...
Yeah, there was no platform. There was no...
Right. And I like to say that, like, I've been doing non-monogamy and polyamory very grassroots, like, my whole life. Like, I haven't had a community. I haven't, like, had instruction on it. But since I was 17, I've been like, I want to do this.
Yes.
Let me figure it out and, like, find people that I like and want to do this with. And, like, these are very, like, authentic relationship things that have just like evolved and continue to evolve.
Totally.
Yeah. So that was college. And then after I finished my PhD, I moved on in the world. And yeah, so, then my like real life so I kind of like lost my way a little bit from non-monogamy after that. I tried to date, monogamously kind of, but I didn't really I never really was like fully monogamous except for in one relationship where I'm pretty sure he was cheating on me anyways.
Oh.
Like,
which is not it.
Yeah, exactly. It was COVID times, so it was kind of like easy and like to remain monogamous at the time. But I kept asking him. I was like, "Can we have a threesome with women?" And he's like, "No, because then you'll want to do it with a man." And I was like, "No."
Oh my
gosh. I told that story recently, and my now husband was like, "But he was right. Like, you're gonna want to do it with a man." And I was like, whatever. I wasn't asking for it at the time, but
yeah. So with your first BDSM boyfriend, what did that mean? Like it was a kind of a dom sub dynamic, or okay. Yeah.
And he was kinky. He was even into blood play, and I was like, whoa, drawn the line there. But yeah, he was a dom. He was like already engaged in like online dom activities. Yeah. So I'm realizing the water bottle's here this whole time.
Oh yeah. It can be off or on the other side.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay, cool. But yes, yeah. It was, it was fun. It wasn't anything like formal. I'm not really a high protocol girl, so.
What does that mean to you?
High protocol? Yeah. Following like specific rules all the time.
Sure.
And
that sounds exhausting.
It does.
I'm too rebellious and bratty, I think, for that.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, I don't really like to ask for permission for things. Although my collar that I'm wearing now, I have to ask
so
permission.
Cute.
Thank you. This is my kink wedding ring.
Oh, amazing.
I love it so much. But yeah, so I have to ask permission now to take this on and off. So, but I can't, like, I'm always empowered,
right?
You know, to do
it's
it.
About intention.
Exactly.
1000% about intention.
But my now husband and I are like trying really hard to like use the obedience app, and I'm just way too ADHD.
Oh, I don't know what that.
Oh, it's like you like have tasks that you're supposed to complete on some like base like cadence, like. Every day I'm supposed to like do whatever or like talk nicely to myself or like whatever the task is.
Oh, I don't stick with fucking anything. Yeah. I'm ADHD too. I'll stick with something for like 2 to 3 days and then it's,
I'm really bad at being consistent, but it like gives you points and then the points get you rewards and like the rewards.
But is it related? It's not related to BDSM.
It is. It's for like the dom to set rules for the sub.
Okay. Which could, I feel like, be weaponized in the wrong hands, but
yes.
Yeah, when you guys reached out and there was a mention of a BDSM wedding, I was like, is it the fucking wedding? Because we had a viral wedding clip that involved clit piercing, which was very extreme. But yours sounds similar.
It was a collaring ceremony.
Okay.
And it was a wedding. Like we considered ourselves married, even though we don't have any documents about it.
Yeah,
like, it's not
you and
legal.
your husband.
Yes. And so the way it worked is we were like, we should do a collaring, is this something you want to do? We talked about it and I was like, I absolutely want to do this. And then he's like, why don't we just have a little party and like maybe just our polycule or something like that. And I was like, that sounds great. And he's like, I
this is sounding like a wedding.
I kind of want to invite more people. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, we should rent out a space. I'm like, okay. And then it became this like DIY full-on wedding essentially. Yeah. In a really dungeony space in Bushwick. But it's beautiful. It's actually the basement of a church that was set up.
Naughty.
Yeah, set up for like a photo studio type of like thing. So there's different sets everywhere and it was really beautiful. So.
Amazing. And was one of your other partners involved in that ceremony?
Both of my girlfriends were part of the ceremony too. And I consider myself like committed to them in a similar fashion as well. I mean, I do practice hierarchical polyamory, which does have like a lot of, things attached to it in terms of ethics. But I try so hard to be very egalitarian and ethical about the way I practice it because this man is my husband. My girlfriends have their own primary partners too. So like things kind of just...
Could you explain what the hierarchical means?
Yes. So it means that you have one primary partner who you tend to prioritize. You spend more of your time with them.
Do you live with him?
Yes, we live together. And that's another example. Like nesting partner would be another way of practicing that. But some people try to get around the idea of like there being any hierarchy because hierarchy has it's a really hard time to... It's really difficult to practice hierarchy ethically. It's hard to treat everybody as human people with rights and like feelings that matter when you are practicing hierarchy because a lot of the time the primary partner can like veto things that relate to the other partner.
But I feel like that's so much more common for somebody to have a primary and then be sleeping with people, other people or dating other people. Like just from what I see on field, it's very common.
It is very common. And I think like for the way our society is built, it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And it, it makes sense for me. That's like, I'm happy living like that. But again, like I don't like the way we practice it is just very conscious of everybody's like needs and rights and like we instead of having to trump one person's needs over another person's we always work towards compromise and like meeting everybody's needs in some degree. If I can't meet somebody's needs right now, then I'll like make a point of meeting them later in some different way. Like we really go out of our way to be ethical about it and we both love each other's partners so much.
Yeah, it seems like people that are practicing polyamory in an ethical way, there's so much communication between all parties. And I admire that. It seems like also a lot of time and energy.
Yes. It's funny people say that. It sounds like a lot. I'm like, I don't know why I find it pretty easy personally. And this kind of brings me to a conversation about polyamory as like a relationship orientation, the same way that like polyamory can be the way that your sexual orientation is inborn, right?
Yeah.
I do feel like my polyamory is an inborn quality for myself and it does come very easy to me to manage all my partner's needs and make sure I'm not like paying too much attention to one person at one time and like because we'll hang out in groups, right? And like it's very rare that somebody feels neglected just because I'm probably ADHD helps honestly because I'm just like
Oh, the most.
All around.
ADHD people, we are doing the most.
Yeah.
While I wouldn't say I'm currently polyamorous, I have a lot of sexual stimuli. I don't know how else to say it. Date a lot of people I sexed with, a lot of different power dynamics. Like,
that's fun.
I like to stay busy, and a big thing with ADHD is the novelty.
Yeah.
We need new, exciting, fun, sexy.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I love it. And that sounds really fun, by the way. Like, sounds like you have a great little sex life going on there. But yeah, I think that we do communicate a lot. There have been times where, you know, someone has been a little like needy, and I'll be like, I'm going to pay attention to this person, and I'll let the other partners know, like,
sure.
Just so you know, I'm going to focus my attention today on this person, but we'll have our like one-on-one whatever right after, so that you feel like your needs are met as well. Yeah.
You're very nurturing, it seems.
I care a lot.
Yeah.
I care a lot. And I want everybody to be happy. And like, you know, I think like jealousy arises when people feel like their needs aren't getting met.
Sure.
And if you are getting your needs met, then you don't really have a reason to be jealous of someone else getting attention, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people listening or watching are not necessarily in polyamorous relationships, but very curious.
Mm-hmm.
I would love if you could share like what a week looks like in your poly life in terms of like this partner this night or this. And it doesn't, you know, just hypothetical.
Absolutely.
I'm curious. Fly on the wall.
So like my girlfriends and I usually see each other for like one-on-one dates at least like once a week approximately.
Okay.
We try to make sure that we see each other, because if we don't, we get sad.
Yeah.
So we need to see each other at least once a week. It's like, you know, like you would for an early dating kind of relationship, right?
Sure.
So then, you know, my primary partner, my husband, and I will go on our own dates too. Even though we live together, we try to carve out time for that.
Very important.
Yeah. And on the weekends, we all hang out.
Okay.
Like, we all hang out.
Yeah.
We all get together, and, you know, we're going to go like to a brat themed rave.
Ooh, fun.
Tonight.
Of course.
Everybody's coming, and that's really fun.
So in terms of intimacy with your girlfriends, does that happen in a spare bedroom, or like, how does that all go down? Because you were saying your girlfriends aren't intimate with your primary.
They are kind of. So actually, our intimacy, like the way we're intimate with each other right now, is facing a really big challenge in the fact that I have HPV 16. And if you tell a doctor that, they go like, that's very serious. And I'm like,
precancerous, right? Okay.
So in 1 year, I went from having normal cervical cells to having like fully all the way precancer, which means that some of the cells were actually already cancerous. They just hadn't invaded back into the tissue yet.
Whoa.
That was 1 year.
Right.
And so HPV 16 is very serious. And I've already had a surgery to remove those cells. It was really scary for a while because I didn't get it all. But your immune system is constantly trying to handle all of that. And I just found out earlier this week that I have only benign cells left. And my immune system was successful.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. I still have HPV 16, and it does have a high rate of recurrence of this problem. So I have to take care of my body.
Ooh, this reminds me I need to get a PAP.
Yeah. Get a PAP.
Because I had
get a PAP.
HPV, had a LEEP procedure.
Yeah.
And then it was gone.
Good.
Yeah, which is kind of miraculous.
So the HPV was gone, you said, right?
Yeah,
okay,
it doesn't show up on tests anymore after that.
Yeah. So
the LEEP was horrific.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. Geez, like
barbaric.
So barbaric.
Gynecology is so barbaric. They literally are like what felt like electrocuting these cells off your cervix.
Yeah, I screamed. I'm sure you did too.
Yeah.
But yeah, really necessary healthcare.
My favorite honey playbox sex toy has to be the Joy Thrust. What is so cool about this toy is that this part vibrates and thrusts, which stimulates the G-spot, and this end stimulates the clitoris. Their products cover a massive, wide variety of experiences and desires, and the majority of them are app-enabled. So in addition to the buttons on the toys, you can adjust the intensity of the toy on an app on your phone, which makes for really fun, spicy playtime. If you're curious about trying out app-enabled sex toys, go to honeyplaybox.com and use code SEGGS, S-E-G-G-S, for 20% off of your entire order. If you are watching or listening to this, you're probably interested in sex and or kink and are curious about finding new partners to explore things with. However, it can be difficult to find those people. The thing I love about the HUD app is that it's more than just an app. They have a community, a podcast, and a ton of education. And inside of their app is a bedroom feature, so you can select all of the things you're interested in, all of the things you want to try, all the things you don't want to try, and that can be shown to potential future partners. So to learn more, go to hudapp.com/sextalk. That is hudapp.com/sextalk, SEGGSTALK. My entire life changed when I started tracking my hormones and my menstrual cycle more closely. That's what I love about the Stardust app is it's far more than a period tracker. It is an entire hormonal health universe inside of an app. It is beautifully designed. It is fun. It is hilarious, and it is extremely educational. It has helped me redefine a relationship with my cycle that makes it much more lighthearted, and it's extremely helpful as you go through the month. Wherever you download your apps, go and search for the Stardust app, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
So the consequence of that to my poly relationships is that currently my husband and I are really the only ones who are having full like contact sex.
Mm-hmm. Meaning no protection.
No protection, and also we're
penetration.
Yeah, we're really trying to avoid any because HPV can spread even with condoms.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very scary.
PSA.
Yeah, PSA.
We love health PSAs on this podcast.
And also there's no test for HPV for men. It just it doesn't exist.
I was just talking with somebody about this about BV. Men are often reinfecting their female partners with BV over and fucking over again.
I've been making men test for things like that. I've been there was a
where can they go? They can.
So there was a point where I was like, when I was like dating around, I was poly single. I had one partner and I needed someone else.
Yes. Yeah. Get bored easily.
Yeah. I was like, we're not having sex until you get tested for ureaplasma and mycoplasma. And those are...
Okay, let's nerd out about this for a sec.
So these are really not well-known microbes.
Okay.
They are considered to be sometimes an STI and sometimes a BV, right?
Like a strain of BV?
So BV is basically just when your vagina's environment becomes more dominated by bacteria to the point where your immune system can't balance things out.
Okay.
Yeah, so it could be any bacteria.
Oh,
yeah.
It's
usually caused by a certain number of different microbes. Mm-hmm. Like Gardnerella is one of them. Ureaplasma is one of them.
Okay.
So mycoplasma is now finally being classified as an STI according to the CDC because there's been a nice little epidemic of it in men who get urinary problems from it.
Oh.
But this makes me so mad. Women have been dealing this quietly for decades.
You were saying you had many years of which one?
I had ureaplasma. I had an antibiotic-resistant strain of ureaplasma for 6 months, and I thought it was going to take me. I thought it was going to win. I thought it was going to win.
What were your symptoms?
Extreme pain, discharge. Yeah, discharge felt weird. I couldn't, it was pain during sex.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just in pain. It's like bladder pain and vulvar pain. So, and that was 6 months. And I had partners at the time who would pretend to care and then weren't getting tested themselves or finishing their antibiotics before spreading it around to other people, even though they tested positive. They're like, oh, well, my partner accepts the risk. And I'm like, they don't know the risk. That's not informed consent.
I've never even heard of this thing. No, nobody knows what's going on.
They don't know.
Were those 6 months of you not knowing what it was, or you...
I didn't know what it was.
There was no treatment plan.
So I went to the doctors. They're like, it's
antibiotic resistant.
It's antibiotic. So I tried 6 different antibiotics, a couple of which made me feel so terrible. I was just I've
been down that road for BV.
Yeah.
And then also my gut is just destroyed.
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But yeah, and then I've had doctors, I had to get multiple second opinions, right?
Sure.
And the doctor at one point was like, I don't know what else to tell you. Of course, this was a male OBGYN,
yes.
Of course.
If you can find a female one, please try.
Yeah.
For those listening.
So that was really scary. I was like, what do you mean you don't know? Nobody wants to be on the cutting edge of where bacterial resistance is happening.
Right.
I didn't want to be the patient zero for this, So finally I did go to another doctor who prescribed a mostly unknown antibiotic, but it also is now getting taken a little bit more seriously because in New York City, we live in a petri dish. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much. And I love
people aren't getting tested or treated for stuff?
Yeah. So if you walk into a City MD right now and you say, please test me for ureaplasma and mycoplasma, they're the same test. They're like in one. They'll say, do you have symptoms? And you'll say, no, but I have multiple partners, or like my partner like doesn't want to get it, or, you know, I'm non-monogamous and this is a community health problem. They'll be like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that unless you have symptoms. But as with many STIs.
I say I have symptoms with STIs to get tested.
You should
get my free tests.
That's smart. That is what you should do. Or, you know, you say you're like in a high risk group and sometimes that'll qualify you. If you say like you're a sex worker, that's another example of a reason they would test you for something. But they won't do it, and they will try to talk you out of it. And they say
Same
that
with HSV. That's like you have to beg for the blood work.
Yeah. The HSV one is complicated too because HSV1 shows up positive on a lot of people because it's just the antibodies. Yeah. Right. It's just the antibodies. So if you've been exposed to somebody with cold sores, the HSV1 could be positive. Yeah. Even if you have never had a cold sore in your life.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's
important.
It's one of the reasons why people don't test for that, because it's just honestly, like, doctors are too lazy to explain this to their patients.
Sure, and there's such a stigma with herpes.
Exactly. Yeah. So they don't want to frighten people unnecessarily, but HSV2 you can see in blood. Like, all this stuff does show up in blood work, and it's antibodies. Yeah. What they should do for HSV is if you have an outbreak, they'll swab it and they'll run the PCR on the swab and see if it's HSV or something else. So
just hard. It's like people shouldn't have to beg for anything when it comes to sexual health and wellness. And there's already a lot of shame going into those clinics, or it's just generally not the most pleasant experience. And I wish there could be a big shift around that.
Me too. And the idea that like there's this individualist focus on healthcare means that people aren't considering the fact that in the year of our Lord 2024, people aren't all married and monogamous. Like, we live in New York City, everybody is dating. Even if you like are dating monogamously, like there's a lot of spread happening. Not to mention people who are non-monogamous like myself. And like, you have to think about the community that you're in. Like, things would spread around this poly community that I used to be a part of. Like, it was a lot. And
wildfire.
Like, what? It does. And it's just everybody's
and it's also
fucking
okay.
Everybody.
There's also treatments for most of these things, and it can be fast.
It can be, but you have to take a public health focus when you think about non-monogamous sexual wellness, because it's not just about you. It's about everybody in your circle, right? Yeah. Even if you're not expressing symptoms, you should still kill the bacteria, because it might not cause problems for you, but it's going to cause problems for your girlfriend.
Right.
And that, I think, is the important like takeaway here, is that there hasn't been preventative testing on these microbes until mycoplasma just very recently. And now it's being, considered an STI, and there's more awareness being drawn to it. But yes, it is. I think that like the way that medicine is practiced needs to shift outward towards understanding that not everyone is, Christian and married and monogamous. So,
and even the married monogamous Christians are, some of them are doing their own thing.
Yeah.
So back to HPV and your current polycule, if you're comfortable talking about partners and stuff, love you to just keep playing through that week. So you're intimate with your male partner, with your husband, and then with your female partners, you're preventing them from being at risk of contracting.
Yes, and just in case they also have another high-risk strain of HPV, I don't want to catch that either, because
there can be multiple.
You can have more, and there's not cross immunity between the different strains.
Wow.
Yeah. So 16 is the worst one that I mentioned. 18 is the second worst one. There are like 15 other ones that are like known to be cancer causing.
Okay.
If you get more than one simultaneously, your risk for precancer like doubles in a big way. So that's another concern too. Wow. So we honestly, it's been really tough for us because we want to be safe, and it can be very inhibiting to be so afraid of getting each other sick, and not wanting to get sick.
Right.
But we'll like play around. Yeah. So like we very carefully play around. The current rule that I'm implementing with all of our partners has been, somebody has to keep their pants on while we play. Like, one of the people has to have their pants on. So like one person at a time can take their pants off and you can play, right?
Yeah.
But the other person has to not be like touching and then touching, right? Like, 'cause things can spread through hands and saliva and so there was one time the three of us were playing around, or the four of us rather. So my husband and my two girlfriends.
Okay, so you guys do all play together.
So we do play together occasionally, yeah. It's not a full relationship for them, but they're close and it's fun and everybody's hot. So so yeah, we were all playing around, and at one point my girlfriend was touching my other girlfriend, and she put her fingers in my mouth, and I was like, hot, but
that couldn't give you HPV. Would that be other?
You can still get it orally.
Oh.
Yeah, these are all bummers.
Wow.
These are all really bummers.
It's important. These things are important.
Yeah,
While we have our PhD here,
exactly.
Let's fucking get into it.
And I love sex. I love sex, and I love group sex. I love group sex. And not being able to do this freely has been really freaking hard. But
could HPV transmitted orally then cause cervical cancer cells?
In theory, yes.
Okay. Interesting.
There's very little research on this, but you can definitely receive it orally.
Yeah.
It is now one of the leading causes of head and throat cancers in men in the US. It is
what?
I think it's the leading cause of
the fuck
head and neck cancer in the US, yeah.
Yeah. That is wild. My mind is blown right now.
Yeah, so people are doing oral now, and people love to tell themselves that oral without protection is chill, and unfortunately is very much not.
I love oral.
I know.
I love sucking
and
dick.
I love sucking dick too. I love eating pussy, and it sucks because I really want to be able to do these things, and I also have a latex allergy, so I can't.
Oh, Jesus Christ. She's worked so hard.
Yeah, she's got issues.
Worked so hard for this good sex, you guys.
Yeah, so we're just being really careful with play now.
Sure.
And I'm making sure everybody gets the new Gardasil shots.
Okay.
They're now covering more strains of HPV than they did when we got them as teenagers.
Yes.
So I would encourage.
Can
everyone.
men get them?
Yes, and they should. And by the way,
men are the ones spreading.
Men are the ones spreading. Not only that, but their immune systems don't retain memory for HPV as long as they only get a year, and then they forget that it ever happened.
Or what do you mean?
No, if you're infected, if they're infected with a strain of HPV,
yes,
they don't retain immune memory for it essentially.
Oh, whereas we have to just keep getting these awful barbaric procedures to get it gone.
Yes. They will keep getting reinfected and reinfected and reinfected and reinfected and transmitting and transmitting and transmitting. Right. They have a worse immune system for it than we do. And yet there is no test for men.
No test for men, but they can get the shot.
Yeah, they can get the shot.
I don't think I know a single man that's ever gotten it.
I do know a few, luckily, but it should be it should be standard practice. Men need to get the Gardasil shot. And so this is me PhD now.
Yeah, great.
If you're asking me, there's no research on men for long-term, efficacy. And because their immune system has a shorter immune memory for HPV in general, I would recommend that men get boosters every other year. I cannot say this is not FDA approved, but you can go to Walgreens and get the shots. You can go to Duane Reade and get it, and it's covered by insurance, and you need 3 of them to even start being immune. Shit. Yeah. But I think that it needs to be more standard practice.
Definitely.
Yeah. And the old shot only covered 4 strains of HPV, and this one covers 9.
Okay.
So even if you had the original, you should go get the new one.
I mean, I think what's so hard about all of this is I kind of understand the order of importance and all of these things that you're talking about, but the average person who doesn't have a sex podcast is going to be like, what the I have to do what?
It's a lot.
I have to do what? And then they're going to be afraid of sex, or they're going to be afraid of getting tested, or the shame, the stigma, how do I deal with this? And it's I think education is just the first part here, because it's yes, I've had a leap. Do I really know what HPV is? No. It's just it's a lot of word salad for a lot of people, and they have no idea what's going on. And when you go into a gynecologist or you go to get treated for an STI, that's a really prime opportunity for them to be I want to explain a bunch of stuff to you. These are the things to be the most worried about. But it's when we only have an education and fear-based setup and not a pleasure setup for any of this, it just creates more fear.
Yes. I think that both things need to be true simultaneously, unfortunately.
Totally.
I think that we have to make our brains big enough to support these 2 ideas, that sex is amazing. It's part of human life. It's beautiful. Yes. It's awesome. We love to share it with many people. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we have a broken healthcare system. Yeah. I think that's what it's really about. Mm-hmm. We're being underserved you know, and I think that needs to change.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's they're complicated concepts. Like this is like it takes the PhD to like have like the whole thing, right? Like you know, what it comes down to is we need everybody to be vaccinated. And we need to use protection more and
get tested more frequently.
And doctors need to counsel their patients, not assuming that they're monogamous. So I just got my colposcopy and biopsies done after my leap, just to confirm that everything was finally gone. They were benign, but they didn't even bother to test me if I had cleared the HPV yet. And I was like, do I still have it?
Right.
And
that's another test.
Another test. And not only that, she said, well, you know, it doesn't matter if you only have one partner because you are sharing the immunity. I'm like, I am actually non-monogamous. And
it's not your responsibility to have to educate someone on that.
Oh.
Right.
And this is like New York City. Like
everyone's fucking, come on.
I can't be the first person who's in your office like
this.
There
can't be these assumptions made.
Then she said, well, if you can use condoms with your male partners. And I said, okay, but I
have 2 girlfriends.
I have 2 girlfriends. Like she didn't even think about the fact that I might be bisexual. And it's in my chart, by the way.
Of course.
Both of these things.
Yeah.
So again, I just think that.
And then that's you advocating for your own test to understand something that you've been fighting and combating for a long time.
Yeah, and I want to know if I'm still if I still need to be as uptight about keeping my girlfriends safe, right? Like,
right.
So it's all of this that we need to be, like, our healthcare system needs to do better on.
Yeah. When I go to get tested, I still kind of like hate some of the questions of like, how many people have you had sex with in the last year? I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that's from a public health risk standpoint, but depending on who's asking me, it can feel slut-shamey or
they also
sex for money. Like, yeah, it's just like.
Yeah, those questions are strange.
I'm like, are we anti-sex work and anti-high body count, or is this actually assessing my risk for whatever, you know?
So the answer to the question is yes, your risk does increase, obviously, with more partners. I think the sex work question is totally moot. It's the same question as how many people do you have sex with, right? Like,
well, then they also, right after that, they ask you if you've like shared needles. And I'm like, what?
This is like a whole like
I know
othering category of questioning.
Yes.
Yeah, it sucks. But my new gyno, the office, at least they did ask, are you monogamous? Right? Like they want to know like that's it. They didn't ask how many people. They didn't ask like, you know, my other like risk-taking behaviors is how they like would characterize it. Right. They just want to know, am I monogamous or not? And like that's correct. Like is there a closed system or is there an open system? Is really the question.
Right.
So
I mean, from a public health standpoint, they need to be asking these questions to understand spread as well.
Yes, exactly.
So when did kink come into your life, like in the more recent dynamics?
I'm such a little kinky bitch.
I mean, you mentioned the original guy, but I guess when it's like these more defined dom-sub dynamics have taken place.
So I didn't get into like the more, so first of all, the first time I ever opened like Pornhub or whatever, it was like RedTube as like a 13 or 14-year-old.
Okay.
The porn website that I would watch. I came across like a BDSM video and I remember just like coming instantly. Just like immediate, I was like immediately coming and I was like.
Always been an arousal correlation. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, that's something. So it's always been there. I haven't always like fully expressed it to the extent that I'd like to because, you know, I'd been like, I was kind of telling this story a bit earlier, but I lost my way from polyamory and non-monogamy for a while. I also lost my way from kink for a while because I was getting all this messaging from society to like find a man, right? And like have
the traditional timelines. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was never really what I ever imagined for myself. If I was being asked like what I want, I've always wanted at least 2 partners. At least one like man and at least one woman. And like that was like my like vision for my future. But I had this idea stuck in my head. So I was dating, you know, on Hinge, which is a mistake if you're kinky or not. Like, don't go there. Like, don't go
so
there.
I've been really wanting like it's so hard to explain what I want. I want like a businessy guy, but a kinky guy, but not like, I don't know what I want, but I've been trying out more of what I call the vanilla apps.
Yeah.
And then I realized that there's just too much education involved. It feels like work when I'm like trying to educate somebody on kink. And
yeah. I don't think it's a good idea personally from my experience.
Sure.
I do think that people who at least have some background in kink are going to be safer too, because they understand like what the negotiations mean.
Yes.
I like dated a guy who was like a fake dom, and like he was just like, yeah, one time I like slammed this girl against the wall and I was like, was she okay? And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like,
right. Like, did you talk about it first?
Yes.
I also think, like, I've gotten some backlash for using the word fake dom. I think there's, like, some different levels to it. Also being that there are just inexperienced doms or men that are trying to do what they've seen in media, which is also harmful until they're told otherwise, you know?
I think there are baby doms and there are fake doms.
Yes, baby doms.
Baby doms are, and then there's
just starting out, figuring
it out. Like teenage doms too. So when my
legal consenting 18-year-old.
Yes. When my now husband and I started, you know, our dom sub relationship, we were trying out some like more intense scenes.
Like what? The listeners like specifics.
Yes. So one time he said, I love getting instructions. Like, they're like, when I get home, I want you to be like this. So it's like, when I get home, I want you to be face down on the ground in front of like where that stupid rug is that we always trip on the entryway. And I want a better rug. So be the rug.
Buy a rug. Oh, you're the rug.
I was the rug.
Okay.
And I like quickly like wiped the floor down first. And then I was like, perfect timing. You know, face down on the ground, naked, obviously. And yeah, then he like, we did this whole like human furniture scene basically. So he's like, I really need a table. And so he's like, it was around my birthday. So he's like, I got all these amazing gifts for my wonderful, beautiful and you know, I hope she really likes them. She's so beautiful. She's so like smart. So I got something for her because she's smart. And I got something for her.
We love spoiling and then subbing and all of it.
Yeah.
Together.
So he's like talking about me in third person while I am the table. He's like wrapping these gifts on.
You guys are so creative.
Yeah.
With this.
He's very creative. It's great. I'm not that good at like these crafting of scenes. I'm
sure.
like a lot more spontaneous.
The doms can do that.
Yeah. That's for him. And I do dom sometimes, but again, I'm like just more spontaneous of a dom.
Sure.
But yeah, so then at one point he was like he was taping these packages, and then he put like tape in my like on my mouth, and but like put it around my hair, and I was like, you can't, like, that was like strike one, and I was like,
sure,
like no tape in the hair, that's rude. Like
you don't learn a lot of limits until you try them.
Yes.
I was talking about this last night. Like, it's just part of the trial and error, and also a certain risk levels with this stuff.
Yeah, and I think like the difference in my mind between a baby dom and a real full-fledged dom is how even when you are using someone, abusing someone, whatever it might be, you're still aware of how they are doing and how they're feeling about it and every sensation. And like you are monitoring their body language for the slightest hints of discomfort so that you can back off, right? Like they need to be not only commanding you and like, you know, like being a sadist, they also need to be like caring for you. You are fully in their hands, right? Yes. And you know, this was
a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. And then so the second part of this scene, I had a ball gag on, and the ball gag was like chafing me. And then I was like uncomfortable, and I was just like it wasn't feeling good. And then like he tried to take the tape out of my hair, and it like pulled my hair, and I was like, stop, red. Like I called the safe word. And I was like, you are still a teenage dom right now. Like I can like I was like, you didn't negotiate these things with me.
Yes.
You didn't check in to see if I wanted this before we like planned the scene. I loved the scene's concept. Yeah. But like, you know, put something down on the floor for my knees if I'm gonna be a table. Like check if I like don't fuck with somebody's hair. Don't fuck with like, you know, like people spend like a lot of like time and energy and like money on their hair, and like
and I think just asking continuously throughout, how does this feel? Are we good? Like, I was sharing this on the last episode, like my sub and I, it's our first time exploring these things together. We were each other's first.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like asking questions constantly. Like it's so important to me.
Yes.
And it also gives them the opportunity, if they've never practiced voicing their concerns and how they feel throughout a scene, it just really gives them an opportunity to think about saying no or maybe or let's take a pause. Yeah. And I love watching a sub be like, actually, I liked it when you were doing this. And I'm like, fucking fantastic.
That's amazing. I hear that from like women doms a lot. Yeah. You know, they're like, does that feel good? And you can do it while still being dommy, right?
And it can be fucking hot. It's hot to check in. You can do it sexy.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yep.
So I think that is like one of the big differences that I've noticed. And then you just developing this awareness and being very much in sync with your sub is really like what is necessary to be fully taking care of somebody and for them to fully give you their trust. And so, you know, like I think about my caller, like what it means to me. And it's that our relationship has gone to this point where I just trust him, right? Like I just feel comfortable completely going into subspace because I know I'm going to be safe. I know I'm not going to be uncomfortable in any way that I didn't sign up for being uncomfortable.
Right.
And, you know, I just, you know, feel like we have that flow and connection where I don't have to worry anymore and I can fully exit my brain.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
Yes.
It sounds so nice for busy-brained gals like us.
Yeah, totally.
Subspace is lovely. I just haven't found a partner lately that I trust with domming me, but it's so fucking nice.
It takes a lot of like trust. I can recommend someone for you. We'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's, you know, like for me as someone who's extremely feminist and like, you know, very like on all the time, like you, and high powered with a doctorate. And like for the idea of me getting on my knees. So this is our wedding. Yes. The idea of me being walked out down the aisle with my wrists bound, you know, and like being led by the collar by my two girlfriends. And
are there photos?
There are photos.
Okay, amazing.
I'll send you.
Show them to me at the end of this.
I will. Them, you know, like taking the leash off and then kneeling me down in front of everyone we know.
Wow.
And I was like, this is like a lot. Like it's a lot. It's like they know me to be Dr. M and like they mostly don't know that I have this side where I'm like relinquishing power in this way. And it was such a big sign of my trust and my submission and my commitment as a gift in my mind, right? Where I'm saying this is how much I care for you is I will give you my submission in front of everyone.
Wow.
And it's a sign of how much I trust you to take care of me like this.
And I think there was some hesitancy for me in exploring submission because I had separated the two, feminism and submission. But submission can still be feminist. It doesn't have to be this. You're not submitting to men. You're not submitting to the patriarchy. It's a one-on-one dynamic that's established.
And to me, I do feel like I'm grateful for it because I need that break from my brain. It's the only way that,
I'm fucking tired.
It's like I need it. And it's because I'm who I am that I feel like I need it. So I don't feel like it's like a submission to the patriarchy. And I don't think I ever have. I'm glad about that.
I hate that the stereotype feels so real being here in New York, but I'm like, being on field, I'm like, oh, these cute little skinny Wall Street banker guys so want to get fucked.
Oh my God.
Like
they need to leave their brain. Yeah.
Yes,
they don't want that. They don't want that responsibility all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want the responsibility all the time. Sometimes
high pressure, long hours. Yeah. I wish I had time to dom more Wall Street men next time. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to come back for those.
I will. I made a website. I haven't shared this on here. I did make a website for like my mommy dom. I just haven't like advertised it on like Tryst or different sex work sites because it's like that's not necessarily the avenue I want to go. But I wanted to have somewhere to send these guys that were all in my DMs.
Yes.
Like I want to play with mommy, and I'm like,
get in line, baby.
For $2,000 to $3,000, you absolutely fucking can.
Hell yeah.
Didn't have anyone book, but that's okay.
Did you have a moment where you were able to switch into your dom identity because like we're obviously socialized to be more submissive, but like. And we're not modeled empowerment in like a dominating way for women, really. So like,
no.
Did you have any inspiration? Like, how did
it go? Look, I am a vibrator girl through and through. However, I think it's really fun and important to bring in an element of penetration to solo or partnered play. That is why I'm excited to share with you guys the Solina line of hyper-realistic dildos brought to you by Peep Show Toys. They are a line of 3 different sizes of super realistic dual density silicone dildos. dildos. Not only do they feel and look extremely realistic, but on the inside you have a thicker, more dense silicone, so it really does feel like a real erection. Get 10% off of your entire order at peepshowtoys.com using code SEGGS, SEGGS. I recently squirted for the first time, and it was a lot of fluid. I was surprised. I squirted like 5 times in a row the first time I did it, and everything was drenched. I spent the entire next day doing multiple loads of laundry, and as excited as I was to have squirted for the first time, I also realized that I needed a solution for the problem at hand. So I am so excited to be working with Splash Blanket. They create incredible waterproof blankets. They can be used for squirting, for sex in general. They absorb up to 1 liter of liquid. I mean, I just use mine as a cozy blanket. They are extremely diverse, and I absolutely love them. So go to splashblanket.us and use code SEGGS, SEGGS, for 15% off of your entire order.
Yeah, I mean, so being a businesswoman in my 20s and ending up in these rooms with men, I was still conditioned that I had to be like soft and quiet and meek and like lead from a very, not even lead, which I was totally the little bossy kid, the leader of the group projects, whatever it is. When I found kink and field and started exploring, it was instantly to that extreme of, oh, I'm so dominant and bossy and in charge in the real world or in my day job that I just want to turn off my brain. And so it was a lot of very casual hookups and one night stands with doms, whether they're inexperienced baby doms, fake doms, maybe there's a more negative intention coming from it. And just like really went for it there. And that resulted in, you know, kind of like the getting shoved up against a wall situation where I'm like, oh, that didn't feel good. And basically I started to build a lot of resentment towards men as a fucking whole from these negative experiences as a sub.
Yep.
And so I started moving further and further away and basically deleted my apps, like full stop to kink dynamics for a little while. And at the same time, I was like inadvertently having all these pro doms on my podcast and following all these doms. And it was like I wasn't even aware. I was in the closet about all this. I was like, I'm a sub, but I love interviewing doms and hearing about them, you know, pegging men. And so
that's great. That's great that you had like role models.
Yes, definitely. And so I was on Seeking Arrangements doing some dating there, and a guy was like, I really, really want to pay you to dom me, and this can start virtually. And so a lot of my repetition and practice of doming was virtual and sexting because it's undoing so much fucking conditioning. Like I tell a story about sending my first dominant text message, and it was terrifying because it literally goes against like every conditioning to just be assertive and dominant and kind of like mean to a man.
Yeah.
And it just kind of grew from there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that you were like, I'm going to practice.
I'm nervous. The good girl in me was like, don't hurt their feelings. And then I kind of just randomly, coincidentally found a sub. And we've been exploring together for like 6 months. And then
that's really awesome.
It's been really fun. And then I've kind of found my dom archetype, which is very mommy, maternal, nurturing. People have always called me Mama Thea, so it kind of came naturally.
Love it.
Definitely not a sadist. Like I don't enjoy inflicting pain or discomfort. I was sharing last night on a live. I had like my sub had to beg me for that part to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's the story. Basically got really fed up with men that were exploring their dominant side, and then submissive men and exploring my dominant side has literally given me hope for men and for relationships again.
I saw that in your story. And they're like, it's you know, our environment that we live in right now is really discouraging when it comes to the vast majority of men just not seeing women as people, right? But they do exist, and I happen to know some really sweet, soft men.
They're the sweetest.
And yeah, it's like it's nice to hold on to those because we need to hold all men to that standard.
Yeah,
we can't keep expecting them to be shitty because they'll keep being shitty.
Right.
We need to expect them to be better so that they can rise to the occasion. They're gonna be slow at it, but like they'll catch up eventually. And then for our younger sisters and our, daughters or whatever, and hopefully there will be a better generation of men that can actually be attuned and available for that. Yeah.
So tell me about Dr. M, the Science Femme, and the platform and the content you make and what inspired that.
Yeah. Wait, but I want to go back and talk about my kink dynamics with my girlfriends.
Yes.
So I also identify as a mommy for definitely with one of my girlfriends. Okay. I'm a mean mommy. Like I get I'm a little bit of a mean mommy. So I'm not as sweet as you. And I can be like a little sadistic, but more just like a cute aggression way, not in like an actual I want to like hurt you way. And then with my other girlfriend, we switch, and it was really funny because on our first date, like we both knew that we were interested in kink, and like at the time I was like, I can't tell where we are.
Who's like leading? Who's like, because there's a power dynamic with everything.
Yeah, we kept flipping back and forth. And I was like,
that's hot.
I've never like switched. I've always like been either one or the other with people. Right. And like, I still won't let Rachel see me like being a sub. Like, I'm like, you can't see me like this.
Like I am mommy.
Yeah. Don't look at me. Look away. But yeah, it was really fun to like pick up on the switch side of myself. And it's fun because even within a scene, we'll flip back and forth sometimes, and it's really enjoyable.
From a psychology perspective, why do you think you and people love power dynamics so much? Like, I think too, maybe a more vanilla and experienced person listening to this, they're like, you're doing what with all these different partners and switching what? Why? Like, I'd love for you to explain it.
Yeah. Why do we love it? I mean, we've already discussed the idea of relinquishing control, the freedom and like relaxation inherent in that.
Right.
And then a lot of people enjoy the feeling of being empowered and caretaking, right? They really feel energized by that. And they feel so like there's subspace where you're just like a like gooey like mess and like you just happy and
this is like post scene for people that are new or
in the moment
scene. It's an altered headspace that can occur.
Yes, it's an altered headspace. And so then people also get into dom space where they're like, I'm in the zone. Like I am like fully like extra in control of my body and I feel like in touch with myself and my partner, and they have this like very empowering feeling of like control.
Yeah.
Usually hopefully benevolent control, right? Like and in like in a way that is very connecting also. Yes. So like this exchange process is like, you know, from the neuroscience perspective, you would think about people's brainwaves, right? Like when you're feeling connected to someone, your brainwaves literally sync. So yes, they become closer in rhythm. If you were measuring with an EEG, like your brainwaves and my brainwaves, and we are like, you know, flowing in the conversation as we are, and we're talking about the same thing and we're aligning on something, our brainwaves would start to match. So it does this too when you're talking about like sex and connection.
What happens when brainwaves match?
It just means that you are, you know, understanding each other better and you are like in sync and things become more effortless and you're very attuned to how your partner's feeling. And that's where people
are like, oh, we had such a good connection on that date.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And that's really like what it is you're literally synchronized in your brain waves, you know, to some extent or another. It's very cool.
Fucking cool.
Yeah. And you know, like it's also, you know, in terms of like why we are interested in kink in the first place, it's a safe way to work through things like our things that have hurt us in the past. Like, you know, I was emotionally abused as a child and to this day by my parents and like degraded a lot. And now I love degradation, which, you know, sucks, but is real and is a real thing for many people. I have a video on Dr. M, the Science Femme, where it's like, how do we get our sexual fetishes? And the origin of sexual fetishes tends to be you have an early life experience that associates sexual stimulation or sexual like stimuli of any kind with whatever that experience is. So as you're like developing, going through puberty, like what you are exposed to or how you like even just intimacy, right? How you like are associating intimacy with what you're associating with can become a fetish or a kink.
Right. I've heard that it can be kind of harmful to assume, though, that all kinky people have childhood trauma or that all kink is reenacting.
I would never say all, first of all. I mean, there's also just the trauma of living under capitalism in our hierarchical society, and that is a power dynamic in itself, right? So it's not like one single person is enacting a trauma on you, and that's why you're kinky.
Like we all have trauma.
Yeah.
And it is a way to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all live with some kind of experience of powerlessness or wanting to be empowered. And like that is just, it's a universal thing about being a human being too. So whether or not it's from one specific, you know, actor or whatever series of experiences, we're all like kind of like playing with the taboo of the thing that can be very hurtful.
Yes.
And like not reenacting it, but I do think it is a way for people to work through it and, you know, reassociate that like negative stimulus with someone who actually cares about you and actually really does love you. And like wants you to be happy and wants you to feel good. And so it takes away the like pain a little bit of those original experiences.
Healing.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I can experience that, and this person I know is there for me at the same time.
And that's why the trust component is fucking necessary.
Yes.
The trust and experience is so
attunement.
fucking important,
Yeah.
because you could access memories, thoughts, experiences that you didn't even put together. Because for me, a lot of kink exploration at first was subconscious. I wasn't realizing why I liked submission. I wasn't realizing why I liked degradation and then praise, but always needed to be together, not just degradation. Like, I didn't understand. I just knew I liked certain things. And so it has to be a safe and trusting space, because it's some intense therapeutic shit.
Yeah. It really is. And I didn't know about like my origins in it either until I just realized that that video of the guy stepping on the woman's head while he fucked her was like the thing that was really getting me going.
Wow.
So,
that was the original.
That was the one.
Kink.
It's burned into my memory. But yeah, so it doesn't, you don't even have to be aware of it. But like I said, these unconscious desires to feel safe in what is otherwise like a risky or could be potentially like dangerous scenario is what we want. And that's, I think, a real DS relationship, right? Not the fake one where somebody's just trying to like use you for their own pleasure and not really caring what it does to you.
So now to Dr. M.
Yes, Dr. M, that's right. Yes.
Tell me how that came about, where that platform is, what kind of content you make, all that juicy stuff.
So Dr. M the Science Femme is just me.
I am her.
She's me. She loves lingerie. I love lingerie. I've always loved lingerie. And I'm also a PhD. And I also used to teach neuroscience and psychology for non-science majors. That was what I did as a professor.
Really good at making stuff digestible.
Exactly.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So, I was really moved to start the account when the Roe v. Wade decision was reversed and that decision was leaked.
It's like the week I moved to fucking Texas.
No, it wasn't. It was oh my God. I'm sorry. That's a trauma in itself. Jesus. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we lost human rights that day. And I said, fuck no. Like, people, and I have on my Instagram page, I have a pinned post, and it has this prosy poem thing that I wrote about why I was so moved and so inspired to start this page. And it starts with, I hope you already know why I'm here. But it goes on to talk about that women, even those who many people would shame for having sex out of wedlock and getting pregnant or like opening their legs, don't you know she should have kept her legs closed and then she wouldn't be in this predicament in the first place? Like, no matter what you've done sexually, it doesn't take away your inalienable right to have control over your own body and decide not just your body, but how your life will flow from that pivotal moment.
Yes.
Because of something somebody else did to you or even a mistake that you made. People make mistakes all the time, right? Yeah. Like, that doesn't make us less human. It doesn't make us less worthy of respect. It doesn't make us less worthy of care. It doesn't give people a reason to like prosecute us for having abortions, or they're introducing the death penalty for like even seeking an abortion. It's just, the way that human beings in our current world use sex as a way to justify horrible things towards others is just not acceptable for me. And I wanted to fly in the face of that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to serve as an example of like, hey.
Also, while we're at it with breaking stigmas, lingerie, super fucking smart. Yes, love it.
Well, I wanted them to see that, like, when people look at my content, they first see somebody who's like, you know, a blonde with her tits out and like, fine. But
fine.
But then they're like, wait a second.
More.
Wait, she's saying something interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, she's saying something really interesting. Wait, I actually want to listen to this. And so I've had people in my DMs tell me this multiple times. So they start off the first time they watch the video, they only are looking at my body and my lingerie. Then they're like, wait a second, I want to listen. So they have to like cover
and then they can't look away from the boob.
They're like, I had to like look away to hear what you were saying. And then the third time they're like flipping back and forth between like how they can see me, right? Either as sexy or as like, you know, someone they want to listen to. And then finally on the last like playthrough, they'll be able to integrate and be like, damn, she's hot, but also she's really smart and good at communicating.
Yeah.
And wow, maybe I want to learn more, you know, like maybe I want to ask her like questions about what she just communicated. And like,
Right.
And that is what we need for people to do to all women, right? Like not just PhDs. I'm only using my privilege to serve as a gateway, right? So that this happens for everybody. This should be an automatic process for everybody. It just lends me a little bit more privilege and credibility because I have a PhD and because I'm teaching science right now. But it should be this instinct that we're training for people. And I want to be that cultural change.
So what are the themes of your content? Are you talking about everything sex and sexual wellness?
Actually, I do all kinds of science. I talk about the science of everyday life. So what that means, so what that means is how can you use science to live your life better, healthier, more effectively, more efficiently? What are a lot of things people don't even think about the science behind something that you take for granted in your daily life? Like, do you know what electrolytes are?
Nope.
Okay, so electrolytes are...
I mean, I know the vanilla version.
So
they hydrate us.
Yeah, they hydrate you. What else?
There's usually sodium in electrolytes, and so that replenishes. But salt also dehydrates. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's great. So electrolytes are salts, which means they're like charged molecules. They have like a little like zap to them.
Okay.
And they are the reason why our brains work. They create the electrical signals that make up our brains. So without electrolytes like sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, etc., you can't have brain function.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're very important.
They're very important. And people are like just drinking electrolytes.
We're like
electrolytes are good, right? Like what do they do though?
Right. We're buying what are they called? The packets when we feel dehydrated or thirsty. Is that
liquid IV
stuff? Right?
Yes, exactly.
Is that good though?
It is good. Salt is actually good. It helps you retain water. It helps you your cells stay hydrated. And you definitely want your brain to stay
firing,
hydrated and firing.
Yeah.
I tell this story. So I worked as a neuroscientist, and I mean, feel free to take this out later if you want.
No.
But I did, actual brain slice recording. So I took electrodes and I would take a slice of a live brain. So the brain was fresh and alive and fully like kicking. So you'd slice it up really thin so you can see what circuit you're looking at.
Wait, after somebody dies? Or
after a mouse dies?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Very quickly you take the brain out.
Yeah.
And so when you're testing these brains, when you're sampling their electrical activity, you have to keep them in artificial cerebral spinal fluid, which is just water with electrolytes.
Whoa.
And if you let the water level get too low, that's bad, right? So there's this one time where...
Drink your fucking water, people. No.
Yeah. One time I let the water level get too low, the cerebral spinal fluid, water get too low, and the brain just like turned into mush.
Holy shit.
And so now I'm really good at my hydration.
Now I drink a gallon a day.
Yeah. I don't let myself get dehydrated anymore.
Right.
I
You literally saw.
It.
Yeah, that's
I watched a brain
fascinating.
turn to mush before my eyes.
So what are some of the other little sciencey things like that relating to sex that blow people's minds?
Yeah.
Any
So
fun ones?
I think the biggest breakthrough I had recently was about squirt.
Amazing.
So people they love is squirt pee, blah blah. First of all, who cares? Like, get over it, right?
Yeah.
If it's pee, fine. Like, but people want to know: is it pee? Where does it come
different.
from?
It's female ejaculate.
So
which is a little combination of things.
There's actually 2 different kinds of female ejaculate.
Okay.
So there's a gap in the freaking literature because of people are so weird. Like scientists are so weird about like talking about this stuff.
Yes.
That female ejaculate and
when they do,
squirt,
it's so boring.
Yes, and they're also getting them confused.
Yeah.
So the word female ejaculate has been used to refer to squirt and female ejaculate in the literature, but they're actually 2 different things.
Okay.
So squirt is the high volume of like watery, clear stuff, right? That they're like, oh, it's pee, or people are like, it's not pee.
Doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't fucking matter.
It comes out. It's fun. It's
So we'll get back to squirt, but there's also female ejaculate, like actual female ejaculate, which is more like prosthetic fluid. So it's like actually, it has prostate.
More coming from the gland.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It comes from those Skene's glands, the female prostate.
Yeah.
Not every woman has the female prostate.
Oh, interesting.
It's about 10% of women who can even do this.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, like I should say female-bodied people, people with vaginas don't always have these glands. 10% of people with vaginas have these glands.
Yeah.
And they can also have different like sizes and like orientation.
Sure.
So there's a lot of variation in this anatomy. Mm-hmm. But when a person is orgasming, the like contractile force on these glands can be so intense that they will ejaculate white, milky, thick fluid, not just squirt. So there's female ejaculate, which is like a little bit of like cum-like stuff.
Right.
And then there's squirt, which is the watery stuff.
Yeah.
And so the people don't even realize. And I've done both. And there was one time.
I've got the gland.
There was one time on video, I was able to capture myself doing both simultaneously.
All right.
And I want to submit that video to nature.
Dude, like people don't even fucking, this stuff is not being studied. I mean, that's one of the themes that I see from academics that come on the show is it's just like, it's not being studied. It's taboo. People don't want to touch it. And
yes, and when it is studied, it can be done in not great ways. So I read a Japanese paper about like how many like, you know, like strokes it takes to bring somebody to orgasm in the MRI or like whatever it was.
It's going to be different based on the person.
The way that they conducted the like methods of how this person was recruited and like how they treated this person in order to, I was just like, this is sketchy and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So, we need intimacy coordinators for research. So that would be like
that's a very good point.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's something that gets harmed with the lack of research happening is the fact that every person's body is so fucking different.
It is.
And so like what makes somebody squirt is not going to make another person squirt.
Yes.
And that's where it's just so important to take your time and learn your body.
Yeah.
And learn your partner's body. And not take it personally if things do or don't happen.
Exactly.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But to the conversation of is squirt pee?
The never-ending fucking
I answered the question finally. Or at least I identified like the research project that would need to be done in order to like finalize it.
Yes.
But so throughout this entire time of people researching squirt, they've been testing for like the major components of what urine is, just like urea and other kinds of diluting liquids.
Okay.
But they don't test for the stuff that's like the excreted bad stuff, which is what makes pee stinky and pee-like, right?
So like toxins kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, stuff that you're filtering out, waste products. So squirt doesn't have the yellow waste products. It doesn't have like a bunch of the different solutes, but it has all the diluting stuff.
Yeah.
So it's pseudo urine. Was my conclusion. So,
fascinating.
Yes, it does come from the bladder.
From the source.
It is pseudo urine. It's created in response to sexual stimulation, but it doesn't have all the waste products that regular urine does. So for everybody out there who's still wondering, it is pseudo urine, and don't be a baby.
Squirted once, working on squirting again.
Oh, awesome.
So where can people find you, my dear?
I am on Instagram and TikTok, Dr. M the Science Femme, DRM the Science Femme. I'm on Patreon. I do some more fun stuff on Patreon that I can't do on Instagram and TikTok. I will post my lingerie modeling stuff. There's a lot of behind the scenes.
Yes.
Some really fun clips of what parties in Brooklyn are like if you're non-monogamous.
Ooh, fun. Yes.
That was a recent post. Yeah. And yeah, I'm trying to, I'll be on a couple more podcasts coming up too.
Cool.
And hopefully another time. So.
And what is a next for Dr. M? Any projects on the horizon?
The video I'm planning to do next is the research paper that came out in one of the biggest research journals in the world. And it showed that living near city trees, just trees, makes you happier as if you were $10,000 richer or 7 years younger. That much happier.
City trees?
Like just not even living near a park, like you're, bougie and you live like in Central Park. Just having, those like trees planted on your block.
Okay.
Will increase happiness and well-being as if you had 10K more a year or were 7 years younger.
Wow.
So yeah, that's like a nice little fact.
So it's not just sex, you guys.
It's not just
never
sex.
know what's going to come out of her mouth.
Yeah, I don't want to be like, see, the thing is it's really easy to like for me to be pigeonholed as just sex.
For sure.
Because I'm in lingerie.
Right.
But
no, I love that.
My goal is
keep
to
breaking
do it
the
all.
fucking barriers, girl.
Yeah, like people are multidimensional. Like I contain multitudes, so we all do. So that's what I want. I want to demonstrate that we can all.
Amazing.
Do that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on Sex Talk Radio.
Thank you so much.
This has been
Thea.
lovely.
It's been so much fun.
And I'll be back in October, I think. So you should take me to like a party.
Party. I will host. I will host one.
And I love Halloween. I love creepy, spooky, fucked up shit. Like,
hell yeah. Oh my God, we're gonna be friends. I'm excited. Cool. Thank you so much.
Dear.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode today. Be sure to stay in touch with us on socials at Seggs Talk Radio Podcast. That is SEGGS Talk Radio Podcast.